Hi, guys.
Okay, hello everyone.
I hope that Nir will come online because I really want to listen to him. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, in March, the 4 Thursdays in March, we're gonna do it after the Classic Planning Institute, and so he should be here for those. And then Pablo's gonna be here for those 4 too. And on the second one, we have a guest who's a friend of Pablo's. But anyways, so I'm not sure if Nir's gonna come today because he has a conflict.
Okay, that's too bad. But I think we're pretty good at chatting anyway. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today is about language, and the problem that I have when I started at design school. It was in '93, many years ago. I thought it was strange that nobody talked about the emotional reaction to design. I mean, as designers, one of the value that we deliver as designers and architects is one component of the value that we deliver to the projects that we do is the emotional reaction for the audience. If you design a house or whatever, a car or whatever, anything. And when I started in design school, it was like everyone talked around it. Nobody wanted to talk about this. And I thought this was peculiar. I didn't understand why. And since then, this is something I have thought about a lot. And I have thought that because in education, this is not something that no one talks about. And it's not only that you don't have it in the education, in the design education. It's also that when you do design and you get feedback on your projects, this is absent. No one talks about it, and nobody has a language for it. So there's clearly something wrong here. And then I thought that architects, they're like the smartest guys. And surely they are expert in this.
Yes, Frederick, before you continue, when you do your exposition, which is fascinating, I want you to come back to address the advertising industry because they do pay attention to the emotional reaction.
Yes, they do.
We'll do that later. So
yes, they do.
Go ahead.
But even in advertising, even in when you talk about branding and advertising, even they are not educated in this. But probably they are the most talk the most about it, surely. And as we have figured out earlier, when it comes to feedback, such as eye tracking and the sensory feedback in clinics, that's something that they do in when you do computer games and when you do packaging and advertising and all that stuff, and maybe also in car design, I think, but not in industrial design at all. Not that much. It's nothing that they talk about. There are of course exceptions to this, but this is, for me, it's always been such a strange phenomenon that one of the most important deliveries that we produce is mute. Nobody talks about it. So that's kind of the background here. And
I'm also curious, in 93, had the computer come in, or was it mostly hand drawing in design school?
Sorry?
In 93, had the computer come in, or was it mostly hand drawing?
Yeah. Lots of computers.
Oh, nice.
We had, of course, we had classes in 3D modeling and
nice.
So that was
Form Z?
No, Alias Studio, which is a CAD package for like car design and product design. That is kind of that was and still is an industry standard in car design. So this was a problem, and
So
now,
are you going to give us the answer that you have discovered after years of thinking and?
No, I want to invite a discussion about this topic because this is fascinating to me.
Well, I have my answer.
Yeah,
I have my answer, but I want you to.
I have some thoughts about it, and what's interesting was that Near had ideas about this.
Near has ideas about everything, and they're always interesting.
Okay, so I thought that architects, surely they must be really, they must have developed a sophisticated language for this, but not at all. They don't, which is what I thought in the beginning. But then I learned that this is something that you don't talk about. And I don't know, it's almost like a stigma. You're not supposed to talk about it. Yeah. But I think it's it's not that you don't want to talk about it, it's just that it's very underdeveloped. It's something that, and this is due to tradition and education, of course.
No, here I disagree with you. Well, we can develop this later in our argument. I think it's deliberate. It is very precisely developed to ignore it. So it's deliberate.
Good point. I mean, that's something we can discuss. So back to so this. I've been fascinated by this my whole life, my whole career, basically, and that's led me to, of course, read everything that I found about the subject. And this is part of also about my books that I'm working on currently. But okay, so emotions. If we start in that end, what is emotions? What are they? Emotions are really signals from your subconscious mind to your consciousness. It's signals for you to act upon. It's action signals. And the problem, if you have if you don't have a developed language for different emotions, then you don't have that much information to work with. Like, for example, if you only feel, oh, everything is bad now, I feel bad. If that's the only information you have, then you don't know what to do. You don't know. Do you want to agitate yourself, or do you want to calm yourself down? That's not part of that information. But if you add more components, a more nuanced language to describe your emotions, you will have more information on how to act, and which is the purpose of why we have emotions. And that's also something when it comes to emotional well-being. The more developed language you have to describe your emotions, the better it is for your mental health, basically. And that you can see that in mental health disorders. And if you're stressed, if you have PTSD, or if you have a personality disorder, something like that, then you have a less nuanced language to describe what you feel. And this in psychology, this is called splitting. You think everything is bad, everything is good, and you oscillate between them. So that is a problem. And this is called emotional granularity. This term.
What? I'm sorry.
Emotional
regularity?
No, granularity.
Oh, granularity. Yes,
Yes.
more granular. So finer and finer emotions.
Exactly.
Yes.
So if you don't have a granular language to describe emotions in the first place, you're kind of handicapped when you are going to work with something that affects emotion design.
Yes. But look, Frederick, you're answering your own question.
Yeah, but I want to. You can criticize the thesis. I just want to.
No, I'm supporting your thesis.
Yeah,
you're answering your own question.
Yeah, maybe.
Because to deny the existence of emotions, the first step is to erase the vocabulary so people cannot talk about it because it's forbidden to talk about it. So the first
Yes.
step is to erase the vocabulary, make it illegal to talk about emotions. Erase
Yeah,
the words,
almost.
right?
It almost felt like that, and it's something that where we can do better. We can improve this, and
Not only
design.
do we look, not only are we're going to improve it, we are opening a giant conspiracy to suppress human emotions.
Yeah,
Starting with getting rid of the vocabulary, what you just described, the granularity of expressing emotions.
yeah,
The totalitarian design power has suppressed the existence of emotion.
yeah. That's one theory of the reason why we have the situation we have. But if you, and this has led to that as designers and probably architects as well, we when we're presenting a design proposal or a sketch or an idea, we can't really talk about it because we don't have the language for it. Which,
Exactly. And so
and
that
if you
was
look,
deliberate.
Oh my God.
yeah, that's something that we can discuss how deliberate it is and why it is.
But look, I'm totally convinced that it's deliberate. When you want to destroy a nation, you get rid of its language, you change the names of all the places, you erase the memory, you erase the culture. That's what modernism did to architecture and design. Erase the vocabulary, not only
yeah,
suppress
there might be a connection to that. But the thing is, how do we use design? I mean, of course, we use design to improve functionality and lots of different components. But if we talk about emotions, we use design to influence these signals that emotions are, but we influence them externally. So I mean, it's really difficult to do it internally. That's what you do when you go to therapy. You try to change your life by working with yourself, how you feel and how you see yourself, and so. So design can be a tool for regulating your emotions externally, and that's how design is used. And
I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm really glad that you were joined.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for your patience with me and my crazy ideas. Oh man! Oh man! Oh man!
Let me intervene here. Let me intervene since Nir just joined. Before you joined, Frederick opened up and he said, "Where is Nir? How can we have this conversation without Nir's responses?" He was genuinely unhappy. So we're glad you joined, Nir.
Yes, we are. Welcome.
I'm really honored. Don't get me wrong. I'm a nasty bastard, and
no, you're not. You're so sweet.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about emotions and thinking, and
so I just want to highlight this disconnect between emotional granularity and design, and that's
tell me about it.
That I think is the root of the problem.
If you seek a connection, in my humble opinion, you're just going the wrong way. It's just a waste of time, because you first need to define what is emotion.
Yeah, emotion. Yeah.
What is emotion?
Emotions are signals from your subconsciousness, your subconscious mind, to your consciousness. And these are signals.
What is your subconscious mind?
Sorry?
And what is your subconscious mind? Because
it's the automated processes that you're not aware of. Because if you would be aware of them, you would have a very big problems because it's too much.
So you have a Deus ex machina in your mind?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
You have a Deus ex machina in your mind? In other words,
an independent entity acting as an authority.
What's the process here? How does the mind work? What is the thinking process?
It's very complicated.
You have an emotion without thinking about it prior?
Okay. So,
So let me take you back to the Bible.
yeah, sure. Shoot.
We have Genesis 1 and 2. 1 Genesis, 2 Genesis. They're the same story if anybody's ever read this stuff, but they're very, very different. The first story is metaphysical. The second story is completely material. There was a lump of clay and God breathed life into it, which you know can't happen. It's magic. And there is no magic in the universe. So, why do we have two versions? One version, the uncomfortable truths of the metaphysical.
Oh, no. Sorry. I didn't know I could be seen.
We have a very happy house here.
Whoopsies.
And she comes in, that's magic. She comes in and out of the bricks.
I looked into it last time you mentioned it. It seemed like Genesis 1 was the 6 days of creation, or this, and then Genesis 2, it like zooms in on day 6 where God created humans. When
You
I went
can
back
say
and
that. And basically speaking, by the way, it is the Egyptian creation myth, straight ahead.
oh,
So it's not even original. But then, you know, mediocre artists copy and good artists steal. So they stole it from the Egyptians. The point I'm trying to make is, if you start trying to figure out the whole story of the snake and the tree of, there's a tree of life and then there's a tree of knowledge of good and evil, you are not going to be able to resolve it in a convenient way without abandoning the idea of evil is not real, which brings you to a Platonic position, to a Socratic position. Now, the idea of emotions, there are only two emotions, love and fear. Everything else comes from that. And you can enumerate all of your emotions, and people have tried to do that for hundreds of years, thousands. Most recently, initiated by a Viennese Jew who had, I don't know what kind of hang-ups, that became a whole discipline. But it's not based on truth.
Who's
You mean Uncle Zygmunt?
Yes. A cigar is just a cigar, my ass.
oh,
So, the idea of emotions actually is the visible or perceptible effects on a person that you can measure. So it's an effect that you can measure of their state of mind. And if you're looking at built environments, it's not the structure that's ever going to create an emotion in you. You bring an emotion with you, and then it gets somehow expressed in your experience.
Are you saying that the Bible is to blame for this?
No,
Is
I'm
that-
saying that it's a very interesting metaphysical story. If it's interpreted that way, that actually brings you to the amazing thing is the very first chapter of the Bible brings you to a Socratic, Platonic point of view, and then the second one completely abandons it and goes on to the rest of the story, which I find very curious. In other words, these guys didn't tell the stories by accident. They put the first one, the one that they felt was the most significant, and then after that is like, okay, fine. We'll tell the story as we're supposed to. And it was written by a bunch of guys who had an agenda. They actually wrote the Bible to validate their business, which was the temple, and it worked.
say-
It worked for a while.
Moses wrote the first 5 books himself: Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, or Genesis. Exodus.
Well, supposedly, and let's go with
Leviticus,
that one. But it was still edited by these guys, and their different voices, and you also can tell in the Hebrew you have different styles of Hebrew. You have some major archaic language in there, which is fascinating. You know how people tell stuff in much fewer words. They tell you more things. It's very archaic in parts. It's a beautiful compilation.
Okay,
But going
Near-
back to the emotion business, I don't know what emotions. And
Near, we are getting away from what Frederick wanted to introduce, which is
what
the
does
lack,
Frederick want to do? Okay,
the
sorry.
lack of.
The problem with the reason, what I can interpret your reasoning is like the problem with that, as I see it, is that it appears as you only have like bad and good emotions and not any nuances. That's what it sounds like, what you're saying, and that's a
Tell
big.
me about the
a big problem.
nuances. Tell me about the nuances.
Yeah, I mean, like for example, if your emotion is only like love and fear, that's kind of what you're saying. If that's the only information you have, okay, now I have fear. It feels bad, and that's the only thing you have to go for. Then you don't know what to do, so it's
What do you
useless.
mean? It's always in context.
Yes, it is constant, but if you can describe that context, if you can describe the nuances of it in a particular context, then you have much more information of what to do, because emotions are signals for action. And if you feel that everything is great, then maybe it's okay, because then you just continue with what you're doing because you're feeling great. But if
It's always in context.
Yes,
It's always in
then you don't
context.
have enough information to do what emotions are.
So give me a list of emotions. What emotions would ever
Usually,
impact?
I mean, if you look at emotions, you have balance. You have like positive, negative balance, which is okay. Everything feels good. Everything feels bad.
Okay.
Okay. If you only have that information, it's not enough information to do anything. But if you also have information of, like, for example, arousal as well.
What
like,
exactly is arousal? Tell me, what is arousal?
Yeah, if you're like really, really tired and bored, then you have
What is being tired?
Oh, Near, come on, you are.
What I'm saying is you're using terminology which we use colloquially, and it's very lovely, but it's not scientific. And
Okay.
the idea of arousal, are you being aroused by something positive, like you're seeing a beautiful woman that you need to have here and now? Or are you being aroused by a lion who's going to eat you in a moment and you see the teeth approaching your neck? Which is the arousal you're referring to? So what does it really mean, arousal? Now, I don't know
Near, if you stop hugging the conversation, this is a question that Anne can answer.
Please.
High arousal and the distinguish between positive and negative effect. It's a two-dimensional problem. Anne, please, you answer it, because Near is just bullying everybody.
I'm not an expert on this, but the tech world really does know it. There was software called Emotion that measures 7 major facial expressions. Apple bought that software for about $100,000, they think, and took it off the market in 2016. It was so accurate. Then software to measure emotions, the way the muscles move on the face, called Affectiva, rolled out of the MIT Media Lab. That was bought by Smart Eye. Smart Eye is a major purveyor of technology to all the car companies, Honda, BMW, GM, Tesla. And Smart Eye is the ability to measure emotions non-consciously is right there. We can predict how people will feel about a building before it's even built. In fact, they now have in 2020, 3, you can now make emotional heat maps. Those combine eye tracking with facial expression analysis, and you can see where someone will smile or frown before something's built.
Okay, can you address Nir's question, where we have one axis, low and high arousal, and then a different orthogonal axis, positive or negative effect, namely fear or attraction?
Yeah,
Which is different.
they can measure all of that. They're already doing it. It's already there. They're already monetizing it. In fact, I heard that in 2026, using this software, it will be mandatory in European cars to have a dash cam that measures your expression. So if you have a stroke, the car will drive to the side of the road.
What?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's all here. In fact, I tested it. I tested it at an iMotions lab where if you go like this, the car then knows to drive to the side of the lab and call 911 or whatever the emergency code is. So
Wow.
AI is all here. There it is. There it is. There they are.
Well,
There's a picture of it right back there. They really understand.
where? Ara, where is the picture?
This is this is Smart Eye's website, and it's automatically playing this video, so I'm not controlling this.
Okay.
But I have it on my. I'd have to find it on my websites. But yeah.
Okay. Before you joined, and Frederick asked the important question: why is emotional feedback ignored in industrial design and in architecture, which is totally crazy? And then Frederick said, it's even more crazy that the vocabulary to describe emotion is totally missing.
It's not missing in the real world. It's not missing in the business world, and it's not missing in the luxury world. They know what people need to see.
Yeah,
otherwise,
but in design school, this is something I have reacted upon since the 90s when I was in design school and my whole career. There is this language is very underdeveloped.
Yeah, it's called a paradigm shift. We call it the 21st century paradigm shift.
I hope so.
It's a paradigm shift. It's completely undeveloped in architecture and urban planning. It is not undeveloped for the automotive industry. They're the major people who use it. It's not underdeveloped. The business schools now, to get a marketing degree in a Boston business school, have to do a complete eye tracking lab with facial expression analysis. And the business school students learn to measure sweat glands. But it is missing from architectural education.
Wait. Anne, for our international audience, what does sweat gland measurement give us as far as information?
Yeah, there's galvanic skin response. Because what happens, if you go on the iMotions website, they explain to you that before you consciously know what you're seeing, your heart rate, your breath rate, your sweat glands are already responding. And you can measure that. Modern architecture tends to put you in a more stressed state instantly before you even consciously are looking at it.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so
look at this. So it's all there. The science is already right there, and it's being actively monetized by the car companies and the business world. They study it actively.
Okay.
But the architecture world is kind of in a different century. It's not in the 21st. And there's a reason why the architecture stays.
There is a reason why. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, but there's a reason why, because first of all, there's a reason why. They're making money copy clipping what they did before. And I think architects, what I've seen in my lifetime, architects have less and less power. It's the real estate developers and the look at this. This is all affectiva. Look at this. You can measure everything. Look at this. It's fantastic.
Oh, so this is something we cannot stop this display.
What are you actually measuring? And I think that the answer was not given to Nikos's question, what does galvanic skin response measure? And it measures stress.
Well, it measures electrical charge changes in your brain, in your body.
It's a measure of stress.
Yeah, there it is. That's it. Look at that. There you go. That's affectiva right there.
But what is it measuring? What are those categories? The names, the words there on the side. What does it say?
There are 7 or 9 of them. Joy, fear. this is galvanic scale. Joy, fear. There's also, I mean, I'd have to look it up completely.
Okay, I think
The
that's
text is really tiny.
I think it's essential what they actually think they're measuring. I'm not disputing this, okay? I'm not saying that this is useless, but I do have a sense that there's a big reason why it's used by the car companies and not by architects. And that reason is not only that architects are troglodytic, I think that's been established, but because it has to do with movement. It has, and that the processing of movement, emotions, is very different from the processing of the stable environment.
I disagree with Nir, but finish, Nir.
No, go ahead. All right. Why do you disagree?
No, I think my explanation is a biblical one because of the presence of evil. The modernist architects sell designs that are harmful and create stress. And these instruments measure the stress that modernist design produces.
And why doesn't they talk about it? Why are no one talking about this?
Because they weren't trained. They weren't trained because the people who came up with modern architecture were dissociated from the human experience. We now know that Gropius, Mies, Neutra had post-traumatic stress disorder. Le Corbusier had autism spectrum disorder. They hurt other people. They don't relate. And there was a big rush after the war, one, Spanish flu, War II, a big rush. A human brain with great trauma does want to forget the past. We now know that's a human response. You don't want to talk about your mother's divorce. You don't want to talk about your brother dying. You know, we don't want to look at the past. So there's a reason they embraced plastics and processed food and cars without seatbelts. There's a big reason they did that. It's
okay, so stop right there. For Frederick, who doesn't know the background, and for our international audience, Anne has shown the origins of the total disengagement of emotions with architecture. Goes back to physical illness and brain damage of the founders of modernism. And Anne has paid a terrible price because people have attacked her for it. I totally support her research, and I think it's a brilliant uncovering, but it's an uncovering of a rotten basis of a power system. So the power system is reacting by suppressing these results.
Well, I also think you have to have compassion. There's a reason.
I have no compassion.
Gropius apparently would say to his students at Harvard, "Forget the past, start from zero." Well, we now know that's a
Can you guys hear Anne?
What?
Yeah, we can hear Anne.
Only compassion.
Let's have compassion.
I have no compassion for Gropius.
No, but you have to have compassion.
Yeah, love is the strongest force of the universe.
But compassion, our ancestors, they did the best they could. They lived through a lot of trauma. Our parents, our grandparents, and there is forgetting the past is a way of. So they embraced plastics and modern food and processed food.
Here I disagree with Anne, whom I love so much. I disagree with Anne. Gropius had an affair with poor Gustav Mahler's wife and hastened his premature end, and he couldn't finish the 10th Symphony. I have no compassion with Gropius.
I think that's the best reason not to have compassion with that lovely individual. I don't have compassion with him because he made such ugly things that they're unconscionable. He had no talent. He was a bully of some sort, and he walked into an environment like the school at Harvard, Robinson Hall, which was such a gentle environment. And he started, doing the Germanic thing on all these poor folks. And it worked. And everybody fell in line and then started doing ugly stuff. So much so that they really believe to this day that what they did is a good thing. Anyways, to cut the long story short, everything Anne is telling you is true. Everything that we know is mostly are facts that have to do with how we perceive things, but I think there is a very different mechanism operating when we're looking at motion and cars and things in motion in the environment, and how we look at the stable environment. If I tell you you're looking at a lovely forest glade with trees and a little bit of water and maybe a cloud in the sky, but just one or two, and a nice rock to sit on, you'll feel nice and comfortable. If I tell you that an animal's walking in, you're gonna feel some stress. That I believe that the two systems, this is my conclusion now, that the two systems of perception are completely removed one from the other. That stable environment goes to the beauty center and the pleasure center because we seek safe places, in other words, places where we will have pleasure in them or can engage in pleasure. Whereas when animals show up or new people show up, we don't know if they're going to eat us, attack us, how they're going to behave, if we need to run or we need to kill them. So this, it's a different mechanism. And yet again, the latest addition to the sapiens, to the hominid brain is hands. And the development of human hands is the last thing that happened evolutionarily past all of us being nice apes. And I believe that whatever is associated with hands and making is yet again a separate system. That's what I understand today, that it's got its own kind of rules and its own things.
Nir, I have a question for you, because today's theme is about the role of language in design. That was kind of the theme. How do you regard that? I postulated that we have a problem because we don't have the language for. We have reduced the language describing different emotions, and we have also reduced the language for how to regulate emotions with design in a granular way. That's what I claim. I think that's the reason, one of the reasons why we are in the current situation, that this is nothing you talk about. You don't, I mean, in design, you talk, oh, sure, car companies, maybe they are picking up now, but always as a designer, if you're not educated in this, if you're not an expert in this, then you can't make arguments. And then you when you're presenting a design proposal, the discussion goes to other places. It goes to, oh, it's too expensive. Look, this product is very ergonomic and it fits the hand, blah, 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 or something like that. But one of the major contributions that you do...
You raised two or three things, actually.
Yeah, just to try to explain the role of language.
The lack or the paucity of the language. And you're saying that has to do with a granular explanation of
the lack of granularity in both how we describe the regulation, the external regulation.
I think that you have your answer by saying your question. In other words, if there's a lack of something going on, maybe it simply doesn't exist. But we assume it exists.
Up to discussion. I mean, we have emotions, and it's a scientific fact that if you have
emotions, I'm not saying you don't have emotions.
No, but Nir, you're confusing the issue.
With regard to tool design, to industrial design, to all these kind of designs, the idea of emotionality or emotions relevant to it, I think, is questionable.
Why?
Because.
Why is it questionable?
Because back in 1800 or so, there was an idea that all art produced an emotion. Because when you look at a painting of a child crying, you're going to cry. If you're reading a a poem on something beautiful, you're going to quell. And it's not true for architecture. I mean, I know it from the architecture side because I studied it. Architecture is not going to produce an emotion in you. It's going to
Of course it
produce.
is.
I disagree with you, Nir, totally.
I know
but
you disagree, but you can't
Nir,
prove your
make
point.
me understand, because I don't understand.
Prove your point.
I don't
Sorry?
understand your reasoning.
Like with architecture, you can't express sadness, maybe like you can in a painting or music or like that kind of thing.
But of course, you can express. You can induce emotion by the designed environment. That's not.
Absolutely do not. The only thing that you do not induce emotion with design in architecture, in the built environment. When you say design, you mean industrial design more so.
I mean both. No, I mean both.
I think they're very different, actually. I really do.
They are different, but they can, of course, they can make you feel things.
Nothing can make you feel anything. This is a really fundamental point.
I disagree with you, Nir. I disagree with you.
You're a victim of your environment?
Yes.
I think
You react unconsciously to your environment. And
that takes us to a very important point, and that's the idea of victimhood. Because I believe that what it will do, it will create a thought. It will spur a thought in your mind. That thought might bring to it an emotion.
No, it's unconscious. And I know a brilliant paper by somebody called Nir Burras on the unconscious effects of the environment on the human body. And now you've been contrary.
It's not unconscious, it's pre-attentive. And they all fall squarely in the sense of goodness that you have or the lack of it. That's all the built or natural environment can give you.
You are being difficult, Nir. Anne, can you explain, please, because you have studied this with instruments, with measurements, how the environment affects your emotions.
Right. It's doesn't happen unconsciously. That's why modern architecture is based on a false premise, the tabula rasa. The problem is the brain is already responding. Our heart rate, our breath rate, I said this before, our sweat glands, they're already responding before we even know what we're looking at. Exactly. And the business world knows that. The architecture world in the 20th century didn't even look at it. They just pretended humans were machines.
Exactly, with no emotional response.
Right. And now what's happened, the power of finance capitalism is so great.
Emotional response.
What?
With no response at all, only functional. In other words, your soul is not engaged.
Right.
Your body is engaged, but not your soul.
But then the founding fathers were dissociated. So it replicates their feelings.
Exactly.
It replicates the dissociation they gave us is true to their dissociation, but their dissociation is a survival response. They needed to dissociate to survive. So there we go. If you Google the mental disorders that gave us modern architecture, it's an article I published 8 years ago. The mental disorders that gave us modern architecture. It explains that the dissociation is very common, but there was an embrace of engineering in the 20th century. You wanted to engineer everything.
Why are you showing this horrible Le Corbusier building?
Le Corbusier, they now know, was on the autism spectrum.
Because we were talking about the founders of modernism and their PTSD. But
Le Corbusier didn't have PTSD. He had autism spectrum disorder, which in the 21st century, I didn't know this till recently, you can now test an infant at 12 months with eye tracking for where they are on the autism spectrum. You couldn't do that in the 20th century. In the 21st century, you now can. It's amazing what eye tracking will show you. Yeah, this is the article, the mental disorders that gave us modern architecture.
Exactly.
And this has been copied and it's been translated even into Russian.
Right.
And it's
this is by Anne.
Yeah, I wrote this, and it's a member of my family is on the autism spectrum, so I was able to use him to do the testing here. Yeah, and you can tell the idea here. This is it. So this is really interesting. Yeah. You can see the 30 neurotypical people looked at the notebook with a cat on it, and without me telling them what to do, this is what the brain made them do. the one person on the autism spectrum, that's how he looked at it.
Anne, please tell us which one is which, left or right?
You guys guess. Frederic, what do you think is neurotypical? What do you think is autism spectrum disorder?
I don't know.
Where do you think the brain makes the normal person look?
The eyes. The eyes.
Exactly.
Let me give a preface to this. The neurotypical person will want to see if this animal is friendly or not, would look at the intention, the expression of the on the face of
Right.
the animal. The person who has problems with the brain will look away at irrelevant points.
Right.
Does that
Right.
help?
Yeah, right. Not only that, autism, they say, is hyperplasticity. They're often very, very intelligent, but it's too overstimulating for them to take in the eyes.
Don't scroll up yet, but look at this. So, you know, the neurotypical person immediately looks at the eyes and the mouth and the nose, because those immediately show the intentions of the animal.
But it's even bigger than that. We're hardwired to do that, to anchor ourselves in the space. Is the animal safe or not? What's looking at me? And what's so interesting, in the morning, my cat looks at me immediately.
Yeah.
Before my husband. You know, the cat.
Yeah. Whereas the person on the spectrum does not look at the eyes. So they miss the total emotion of the animal looking at them.
It's too hyper arousal for them to look at the eyes.
Okay.
So if you scroll down.
Ding ding ding, the bell, ding ding ding, the bell.
Keep looking down.
How do people look at buildings? Scroll down.
Keep looking down. So this is fascinating. Yeah. Again, 30 people, on neurotypical people, you see how much they focus on the building. One person in the autism spectrum, his brain doesn't let him look at it. It's too detailed. So Nicholas Fox Weber wrote a book on Le Corbusier, a biography in 2008, and he mentions autism in it and how he probably had it. And that's what got me into this research, reading his book about Le Corbusier. And remember, autism wasn't a word doctors knew till 1980. Autism spectrum disorder wasn't known until 1980 in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. It entered the manual the same year as post-traumatic stress disorder. Next, keep scrolling down. And I think then you can see, yeah, and then this is about the trauma. This is Gropius. Yeah. So what's fantastic about Gropius is the house, Harvard wanted him to live in Cambridge. He said no, he wanted to build a house on a remote old orchard further from Cambridge, where there was almost no houses around it at all. And he kind of recreates, it's called reenactment in PTSD, where you recreate the trauma of the past, your brain trying to heal from it. So he recreated, this is kind of incredible story. He recreated the form of a bunker. This is an actual bunker. World War I bunker. This is an actual bunker that was actually built before World War I. It's now a historic site. There are the bodies of World War I veterans still in it, and they allowed trees to grow around it. It's in Belgium. It's a historic site now. Next.
Gropius's house is on the left.
Yeah, Gropius's house on the left, and then that's it. And I think that's basically it. Yeah, that's basically it.
Can we go scroll to the top? There was the Corbusier buildings. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So when you see how, this is really fascinating, when you see the blankness in Le Corbusier's building and the lack of eyes, and certainly the blankness of the building on the right there, it's exactly would be easier for someone on the autism spectrum to look at that building. Confusing, very confusing where to walk for a neurotypical person. Much easier for some of the autism spectrum. They will look right in the center of the blank concrete. That's the fascinating thing about it. So modern architecture, I mean, war gave us our world, and we tend not to look at that. And that's probably why nobody really talked about this till the 21st century, till 100 years later.
Okay, so I mentioned before that Anne got a lot of hostility after this article.
But not really though, and it hasn't been that bad. And and now it's been republished in Cognitive Architecture, 2nd edition. It's referred to in the new book that came out, the Handbook of Neuroscience in the Built Environment that just came out. So it's starting to get.
Anne, this is misleading because you are quoting scientific venues that take you seriously. How about publishing in the architectural journals?
Right.
They don't want to touch this. They ignore
No,
this.
I think it was picked up by Arch Daily. I think Arch Daily picked it up. That's the largest architecture website in the world, apparently, or the most frequently visited one. They picked it up. It was translated into a few languages, but in general, it's not taught in architecture school.
Yes.
Because there is no, this they picked it up. Here's what we can learn about architecture from tracking people's eye movements, how traditional architecture draws you in and makes you feel present. The modern architecture cannot. I think that's the big shift that has to get out there, though. It's the non-conscious experience that directs conscious behavior. Oh, this is fascinating here.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
shows
You showed this
the
last.
importance
Yeah,
of detail. Yeah.
right.
The-
You
the-
showed this last time. But look, getting back to my original answer to Frederick's question, I think that modernism sells a product that creates anxiety. Therefore, they have to totally suppress the existence of the emotional feedback because
Yeah.
it's going to
Can
be
I-
condemned.
Can I continue with this? I would like to ask each of you this question: how can we use language to be better designers or better architects?
I think that's a really good question. I like to answer most questions with Occam's razor. The idea that we have a studio language, which we take for granted as designers, is fine. I think that every profession, they have their own jargon. But it's not going to communicate to the next person if they're not trained in the same jargon. So I encountered something really, really interesting. It's called shape grammars. And shape grammars are a set of shapes and the rules that govern how they go together, so that anything you can identify as a style, Frank Gehry style, Zaha Hadid style, anything you can identify as a style, Frank Lloyd Wright, Michelangelo, it's actually a set of shapes that have recurring shapes and relationships so that you can identify it. But there is an underlying philosophy behind it. And I keep on going to philosophy because I love to think. Philosophia. And the philosophy behind shape grammars, and this is the philosophy that underpins the algorithms of CGI, is that the language of design is equal to the language of critique. If you cannot critique something the same language you produced it, you never know what you get. But in computers, you need to know what you got. So therefore, our studio jargon, which is divorced from the critique language of users and critiques and critics, creates a gap. And we live, modernist designers, we live in that gap between our private, cultish language and the language, the standard language outside. So I invite you to make a list of your studio jargon. And I actually taught first-year architecture, going through the terminology of Corbu and Mies van der Rohe and sitting the students down. It took 11 hours. We went through all their language. And I said, guys, you are now professional architects. Okay, so they're first-year students, but what are we going to do? They need to be, we need to put oil on their head or what? Let's start using the professional language. And I explained to them what the stuff means. For example, there's the term space. And if you look at the word space, it has no meaning. It has no character. And what creates the character for architectural space is the walls around. So it's a room. We mean a room. And now we know from the neuroscience that the first thing we perceive are edges. So the idea of a room, not a space, space is meaningless, but a room is what gives you the actual architectural experience, which is contrary to all modernist thinking and practice. Now, coming back to industrial design, there's no question.
Excuse me, before you come back to industrial design, I just want to mention I agree with you on your excellent analogy. However, I want to let our audience know that Alexander's geometrical properties supersede the shape grammar and develop it much, much further. So please continue.
And I disagree with you on that based on Occam's razor. Whatever. But thank you for interjecting. I know you're into that, and we love you, so we let you say whatever you want, and we always say
Can
amen.
we ask the same question to Ara? Because Ara you graduated not quite recently, but it was Ara. When did you graduate?
2012.
Yeah. The same question to you. How did you use language when you were educated and in your profession now, and how can you improve it, do you think?
Yeah, emotion was not part of the equation. There was like there were two branches we were allowed to take with the language, and it's like no one really pointed it out there, but we all picked up on it. It was either sustainability, you talk about how energy efficient your design is, or you try to have really poetic language and talk about something that just sounds like it's poetic, even though the building may look super ugly. If you have a poetic description behind it, it's a good project, A+ project.
Well, when you talk about poetic language, it kind of sounds like you think it's bullshit, or
Yeah, it
so
kind of is. Yes.
that implies that that language didn't really work, or
I don't know. I was fascinated by it during architecture school, but it's just what do you call it? It's like a vacuum. It's like a vacuum of a certain group of people that gets into it.
If I may interject with my own personal experience from architecture schools, it is just a big deception. The professors encourage the creation of horrible, anxiety-inducing designs, and then they propose a very poetic description. That has nothing to do with it. It's the opposite. It's a complete deception.
So that type of language doesn't really work, does it? It's not.
It works. The language works to cover the deception.
Yeah, but it's not useful to produce to improve your design work, is it? If it's just bullshit.
Well,
is it? Or what do you think, Ara?
Sorry, I guess I was muted. Yeah, it doesn't really help with design. It's like your design becomes one thing, and the way you describe it becomes a totally another thing, and the two start not having anything to do with each other.
So it's disconnect.
Yeah, big time disconnect.
So that's a problem, isn't it? Not for the architecture professor. That's the point. To disguise a horrible, inhuman, anxiety-inducing design by using beautiful poetic language. That's the whole point.
Yeah, if we think a little bit in the future, we want to improve things. We want to develop this. What should we do?
Make the language correspond to the actual emotions that are propagated by the design itself. So they match.
And how do we do that?
By holding the architecture faculty accountable for the emotions that the design produces, which now they're not.
And maybe also to learn how we can regulate emotion with aesthetics in a granular way.
I'm sorry to bring up Mir's least favorite architect, but I just I know it's like
guys, you guys are the best. I've got to go at 2, but maybe in the future we could talk about iceberg zombies and the ultra thin, how finance capital controls it, not even talking anymore. It's all money.
Yes, it's all money.
It's all
Money
money
and power. Money and
if you
power.
Google
Yeah.
Amazon, iceberg zombies, ultra thin, and architecture, it's all about how it's really finance capital, and that's what's controlling it, not architects. And so in New York City, I'm seeing these big giant buildings with nobody even living in them, but it's a financial place to store
Yes.
capital.
My friend Michael Mahaffey calls these safe deposit boxes in the sky.
Exactly. That's exactly. It's becoming a big thing. That's it. There it is, right there. Iceberg zombie shelter.
Yeah.
Just pull it up for a second.
Yeah.
That's what it's
Yeah.
all about. And he really studies this, why architecture is so dissociated. He's interested in the same thing we are. It's architecture capitalism. It's
This building
taking it
actually got
away.
built.
What?
Which one?
Actually,
Yeah,
I'd like to point out that towers in architecture are invariably associated with the idea of fear.
Yep.
And that in the Middle Ages,
pride.
we had, sorry?
Pride and pride.
No, fear, not pride. And pride, there's the good pride, but pride is good. You're proud of something you have, proud of something you did. But these are not associated with pride. The only reason to rise higher is to get more income or to overcome an enemy that is lower. Why would you actually need the added elevation? Think about it. Because if you are trying to project your own pride, you don't need to project. You're there already. So anybody who's projecting the idea of pride is operating from fear. What I'm saying really is to think about what we're doing. And we're so used to not thinking about it that we wind up creating all kinds of weird things and then using language we were trained in uncritically without really thinking about it. So I discovered that there are about 30 ideas pertaining to architecture that are standard studio jargon. The climate business, the function business, the geometry this, the geometry that, the reference to landscape, all kinds of things. But then you have meta ideas as well, conceptual intentions. And one of them, this idea that all art produces an emotion, caused a lot of thinking in the architecture world because people really did believe that their design creates emotion. So it opens the door to a lot of exploration.
Yes, but dear friends, we have overshot the 1 hour mark. And
so let's have another conversation about language.
We haven't talked about love yet. We should talk about love.
Isn't that something? You know? Well, there it is.
Yes.
So maybe Nikos, you know the answer to this. Einstein's universal constant is lambda. And I tell a myth that he used lambda for love. Now, do you know any other story, or can you refute that so I can create an urban myth?
I don't know the story, but Einstein's universal constant turned out to be unnecessary for the closure of the universe. So Einstein then said, we don't need the universal constant because the universe can be closed without the universal constant. So
Which
whatever it was called.
If you have a constant and you want to close it, then it falls off the equation.
No, he put it in because it was a fudge factor that it was inserted. Then found out it was not really necessary.
I want to say something. You guys who watched this episode, some of you who watch and are interested in this, please write a comment about what you think about the role of language in design. That would be really interesting.
Good, and you know, Ara can bring up the comments in our next video, and we can answer them.
Sure, we'll do. Okay.
Frederick, have you ever read Palladio?
No, maybe I should.
I think you would enjoy it. First of all, there's not a lot to read. It's very hands-on. It's all about construction. pure and simple. It doesn't have anything else in it.
What's the title?
Oh, it's Palladio. I don't know. There's only one book, Palladio.
Look,
Is that the author's name?
yeah, Palladio is the
No.
author's name. Look, spend your time better by reading Christopher Alexander. And we're over time. Come on, Ara. Think of a way to close today's conversation.
Human-centered design is making a comeback.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's about to. It's about to.
We're discussing it internationally in these series of talks. But when you look at what's being built, it's ugly, ugly, ugly.
Palladio was around. What year was that?
1550,
Oh.
1585.
Yeah.
1500s. And he was an architect who wrote quite a bit about human-centered design when it comes to buildings. So it's certain things are lost, but I'm sure that we'll rediscover them.
Nothing's ever lost.
Okay, so we have plenty of things to discuss in our next meeting.
I think we could talk another hour, but maybe it's time to.
I think we should continue the conversation. Just call it language too, and we can focus on love because that actually is a very, for me, all thinking is discipline, because it's about using words consistently that everybody else understands in a nice, simple way with having as little jargon as possible. And love is a big deal. It's not just romantic love. We all know romantic love, but there's a higher level of love, and the only level of love, actually. And you can have it for a chipmunk, and you can have it for a child, and you can have it for a rock. You can have it for a brick. And you cannot really lay one brick on top of the next one without the full attention that love requires.
And you sound exactly like Christopher. No.
But I'm much nicer as a person.
Oh, nasty, nasty in here. Ara, cut the video.
Okay. Ending stream.
Okay.
All right.